Elon Musk's mom once said that the most powerful truth she ever taught her children was something so simple that most people overlook it their entire lives: you are always allowed to choose yourself, even when the world doesn't choose you. It sounds small, almost too simple. But if you sit with it, really sit with it, you will start to understand why this truth is the difference between a life lived by default and a life lived by design. It is the thread running beneath every achievement, every breakthrough, every impossible leap humanity has ever made. It is the truth that often arrives to you disguised as a whisper, especially in moments when you feel invisible, unsupported, underestimated, or trapped, because choosing yourself is not about ego. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about refusing to collapse in a world that constantly tells you where you belong, what you can be, what you deserve, and how far you're allowed to go. It is about claiming the authority to be the author of your own story, even when your hands are shaking, even when your voice trembles, even when the world calls you unrealistic for believing you are capable of more. May Musk raised her children with this truth, not because she expected them to become world-changing figures, but because she wanted them to survive, to stay rooted in themselves, to refuse to be limited by the circumstances they were born into. She believed in giving them permission to dream without boundaries, to act without waiting for external approval, to build without needing anyone's permission to begin. What many people forget is that even Elon, the man who now symbolizes radical possibility, grew up as a kid who didn't fit in, who was bullied, who escaped into books and ideas because the world around him didn't quite make room for him. But he learned early, because his mother taught him, that when life doesn't open its doors for you, you don't stand outside waiting. You build your own door. You build your own path. You build your own timing. This is the one truth that can change your life forever. Because the moment you realize you are allowed to choose yourself, you stop waiting. And life begins the very moment you stop waiting. Think of how many dreams die not because they are impossible, not because the dreamer is incapable, but because the dreamer is waiting, for approval, for permission, for validation, for someone to see their worth before they dare to express it. So many people live behind invisible walls made of hesitation, fear, and imagined judgment. They tell themselves, not yet. Maybe later. Maybe when I'm more confident. Maybe when someone believes in me. But the truth is, nobody comes to crown you ready. Nobody shows up to hand you the perfect moment. Nobody arrives with the guarantee that you won't fail. The world rarely applauds until after you've succeeded. And sometimes not even then. Choosing yourself is the act of stepping forward anyway. May Musk knew this. She lived through hardship, reinvention, and uncertainty. She raised her children while working 5 different jobs at once. She left toxic environments. She rebuilt her life multiple times. And every time someone asked her how she did it, she'd say something simple: you just do it because no one else can live your life for you. Those words hide a powerful reality: no one else can save you. No one else can take the steps you need to take. No one else can fight for the life you want. You are the only one with the authority to break your own cycles, to unlearn your own limitations, to outgrow your own fears. When you choose yourself, you stop living from the outside in, and start living from the inside out. You become deliberate. You become dangerous in the most beautiful way, a person who refuses to give up on themselves. And once that shift happens, everything changes. Choosing yourself is how you start writing the chapter you always thought you'd get to someday. Choosing yourself is how you start waking up with purpose instead of pressure. Choosing yourself is how you stop being loyal to your old life and start being committed to your future. The world is full of people who are capable, talented, brilliant, but stuck. Not because they lack what it takes, but because they're still waiting for a signal that it's finally their turn. They're still waiting to be picked. Still waiting to be seen. Still waiting for something external to give them permission to rise. But there are two types of lives in this world, one lived by those who wait for the door to open, and one lived by those who build their own. May Musk taught her children how to build the second type. And she taught them early. When you're taught that you are allowed to try, allowed to fail, allowed to start again, allowed to be different, you grow up fearless in a world that punishes difference. You grow up prepared to walk your own road even when no one walks beside you. This truth applies to you. It applies to your story, your dreams, your future, your potential. It doesn't matter who you are today. What matters is who you are becoming. And choosing yourself is the first step toward becoming that version of you that you've glimpsed in moments of clarity, maybe late at night, maybe during a quiet walk, maybe in those times when life feels too tight and you feel the pressure of the person you're meant to be pushing from the inside. Maybe you've been shrinking yourself to fit into a life that doesn't excite you anymore. Maybe your potential has been whispering louder and louder lately. Maybe you felt an inner pull toward something greater, but you don't know where to begin. Start here. With this truth, start by choosing yourself. When you choose yourself, you stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop justifying your dreams. You stop dimming your light to make other people comfortable. You stop living small just because the world has grown used to seeing you small. Choosing yourself doesn't mean life gets easier. At first, it often gets harder. But it becomes meaningful. It becomes yours. You will have days when you doubt yourself. Days when people misunderstand you. Days when you wonder if choosing yourself was a mistake. But the thing about choosing yourself is that once you've done it, you can't go back to pretending you're powerless. You can't unsee your own potential. You can't unknow your own strength. You can't go back to living asleep once you've woken up. That inner shift changes you permanently. It makes you aware of every moment in your life when you settled, when you accepted less than you deserved, when you ignored the quiet pulling of your destiny. But it also makes you aware of every door you can still open, every dream you can still resurrect, every chapter you can still write. You become unstoppable not because you never fear again, but because you choose yourself even when you fear. Every creator, innovator, leader, artist, builder, visionary, every person who ever changed anything, chose themselves long before the world chose them. They believed in their own voice before anyone else believed in it. They saw possibilities where others saw impossibilities. They followed their spark even when it looked unreasonable. You may not want to build rockets or electric cars or create global companies. Your dream may be something else entirely: starting your own business, expressing your talent, building a family, discovering your passion, healing old wounds, escaping limitations, reinventing your life, learning to love yourself, or finally becoming someone you can be proud of. Whatever your dream is, the truth is the same: it begins with you choosing yourself. Choosing yourself means deciding that your life is worth effort. Choosing yourself means honoring the dreams that scare you. Choosing yourself means refusing to let your past dictate your future. Choosing yourself means believing that your destiny is bigger than your circumstances. Sometimes people say, it's easy for successful people to say that. But that is exactly the point. Every successful person only became successful after choosing themselves. Not before. Musk didn't raise her children into success. She raised them into courage. She raised them into responsibility. She raised them into self-belief. The rest was built on top of that foundation, brick by brick, risk by risk, failure by failure, breakthrough by breakthrough. Now here you are, standing at the edge of the next chapter of your life, reading these words, feeling something inside you move. You're not reading this by accident. Something in you is ready. Something in you is hungry. Something in you knows it's time. You've spent too long doubting yourself, too long pretending you're not capable, too long lowering your standards to match your surroundings, too long waiting for someone else to give you a chance you could have given yourself. You deserve more than survival. You deserve a life that feels like it belongs to you. And it starts with the same truth Musk whispered into her children's lives: choose yourself. Choose yourself when no one understands you. Choose yourself when people laugh. Choose yourself when the road feels uncertain. Choose yourself when your dreams feel too big for your environment. Choose yourself even if your hands are shaking and your doubts are loud, because one day, if you stay committed, those doubts will disappear, those fears will dissolve, those limitations will fall away. You will look back at this very moment and realize it was the turning point. The moment your life began to reshape around your courage. Choosing yourself is the seed, your future is the tree. And no matter how long you've postponed your life, no matter how many opportunities you've missed, no matter how heavy your past has been, the truth remains: nothing is over for you. You can change everything. You can start again. You can rise from places you once thought would bury you. You can become unrecognizable in the best way. The power is already inside you. What you've been waiting for is not outside, it's within. So take a breath, stand a little taller, feel the weight of your old fears sliding off your shoulders, feel the lightness of possibility expanding in your chest. This is your moment, this is your permission, this is your beginning. Choose yourself today. Choose yourself tomorrow. Choose yourself again and again until it becomes natural, until it becomes obvious, until the world has no choice but to recognize the version of you that always existed underneath your hesitation. Because when you choose yourself consistently, boldly, unapologetically, life will eventually choose you back. Not because of luck, not because of destiny, but because you built a life where success became the logical outcome of self-belief. You owe the world nothing. But you owe yourself everything. So let this truth sink deep into your bones. Let it guide your decisions. Let it shape your identity. Let it be the spark that ignites every step ahead. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to believe in yourself. You are allowed to rewrite your story. You are allowed to rise. And one day, when you look back at the person you were before you embraced this truth, you will barely recognize them. You'll wonder how you ever lived without believing in yourself. You'll wonder why you waited so long, but you won't regret the journey, you won't regret the struggle, you won't regret the courage, because a life built on choosing yourself is a life built on authenticity, purpose, and unstoppable momentum. This is the truth that can change your life forever, and now that you know it, the only question left is, and maybe. For the first time in a long time, you feel something awakening inside you, something you can't quite name, but something that feels like strength, like clarity, like a quiet promise from life itself. Because once the idea of choosing yourself enters your mind, it begins to rearrange the way you see everything. You start to look at your challenges differently. You start to question the limits you once accepted without resistance. You start to wonder whether all the obstacles you thought were permanent were really just tests of whether you were willing to choose yourself even when things got hard. This is where transformation truly begins, not when life becomes easier, but when you become braver. Choosing yourself doesn't remove difficulty, but it changes the way you meet difficulty. You stop thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start thinking, "What is this trying to teach me?" You stop asking, "When will things get better?" and start asking, "How can I become better so that things around me change?" That one shift is the subtle difference between people who feel powerless and people who build power within themselves. When Musk watched her children grow up facing their own storms, she didn't tell them they were victims of their environment, she told them they were capable of shaping it. She didn't raise them to be afraid of the world, she raised them to be strong enough to walk through it. You have that same strength. It may be quiet. It may be buried. It may be bruised from years of doubt or disappointment. But it is there, waiting for you to call upon it. Strength grows in silence long before the world notices it. The day you choose yourself is the day you reclaim your voice, your power, your direction. It's the day you stop being led by fear and start being led by intention. You begin to understand that you are not here to be a background character in your own story. You are here to become the person you admire, the person you've imagined, the person who stops settling and starts building. Choosing yourself also brings something else, responsibility. You begin to understand that no one is coming to carry you. No one is coming to fix your life for you. But that realization doesn't feel heavy, it feels liberating. Because it means you are the one in charge. You get to decide what stays and what goes. You get to decide what your future looks like. You get to decide what kind of energy you allow into your world. It's not easy to outgrow old versions of yourself. It's not easy to release the beliefs that once kept you safe but now keep you stuck. But growth demands a level of honesty that hiding never will. When you choose yourself, you are forced to confront the parts of your life that no longer serve you, old habits, old patterns, old fears, old relationships, old excuses. It's uncomfortable. But it's necessary, and once you do it, you feel lighter. You feel freer. You feel more like yourself than you've felt in years. This truth becomes a compass. Every decision you make begins to pass through it. Is this choice honoring me? Is this choice aligned with who I want to become? Am I abandoning myself or supporting myself? Most people never ask themselves these questions. They drift. They chase things they don't value. They stay in situations that drain them. They follow expectations instead of purpose. But when you choose yourself, you learn to listen inward instead of outward. You learn to walk away from what diminishes you. You learn to move toward what strengthens you. You learn that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's essential. Choosing yourself teaches you that you don't have to earn your worthiness. You already have it. You don't need permission to live a life that excites you. You don't need validation to pursue what calls your spirit. You don't need approval to grow beyond the limits people once placed on you. You start living for the future you, not the version that others are comfortable with. And this is where something incredible begins to happen. The moment you choose yourself, the world around you starts to rearrange itself in ways you could not have predicted. Opportunities show up. Ideas flow. People who match your energy appear. The path ahead becomes clearer, not because it magically becomes easy, but because you finally stepped onto the right path. Life always responds to courage. People often think miracles are rare, but the truth is miracles happen the moment you align your actions with your truth. When you stop betraying yourself. When you stop shrinking. When you stop abandoning your aspirations just to fit environments that were never meant to hold your potential. You are not meant to fit in places that dim you. You are meant to rise above them. Choosing yourself is how you rise. Choosing yourself is how you begin again. Choosing yourself is how you build a life that feels right in your soul. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to take the first step. You don't need the perfect plan. You just need the decision. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to trust yourself enough to start. Even when Elon Musk was just a boy reading science fiction, escaping into imaginary worlds, he didn't know exactly what he wanted to build. He didn't have a blueprint for rockets or cars or global companies. All he had was a belief, a seed planted by a mother who reminded him that his dreams were his responsibility. That he had the right to pursue them. That he was capable of more than the world expected of him, and that is all you need, one seed of belief. One decision to choose yourself, one moment of courage that will echo through the rest of your life. You may have spent years doubting your value. You may have been surrounded by people who couldn't see your potential. You may have made mistakes, lost time, or taken detours. But none of that disqualifies you. None of that defines you. What defines you is what you choose next, right now. In this moment, will you choose the version of you that hides, or the version that steps forward? You don't need to be fearless to choose yourself. You just need to be willing to try, willing to rise, willing to believe that something extraordinary is still possible for you. Because it is, and the moment you choose yourself fully, deeply, and without apology, your life will begin to reflect that choice in ways you cannot imagine yet, but will one day look back on with gratitude, awe, and a quiet smile that says, "I'm proud of who I became." And the beautiful thing about choosing yourself is that it doesn't happen only once. It happens every day, in small moments, in quiet decisions, in subtle ways that slowly shape the structure of your identity. You choose yourself when you set boundaries that once felt impossible to set. You choose yourself when you walk away from conversations that drain your spirit. You choose yourself when you say no to things that steal your time, your energy, your peace. You choose yourself when you pursue something meaningful even when no one else understands it. You choose yourself. When you hold your vision steady, even when doubt tries to pull you back into old patterns, every one of these choices strengthens you. Every small act of self-honoring becomes a brick in the foundation of the life you're building. And over time, something extraordinary happens. You stop seeking permission because you no longer feel like you need it. You stop apologizing for wanting more because you recognize that wanting more isn't a flaw, it's an instinct. Growth is your birthright. Evolution is your nature. Expansion is your destiny, but we live in a world that conditions people to shrink, to stay predictable, to stay manageable. The world teaches you to be realistic, to stay within the lines, to accept what you're given. Yet every great story begins with someone who dared to believe that the world's limitations did not apply to them. Someone who decided, often in the quiet of their own mind, that they were meant for something more. Choosing yourself is the first rebellion. Becoming who you are meant to be is the second. The truth is that life tests you most intensely right after you choose yourself. That is not a sign that you made the wrong decision, it's proof that you're breaking out of an old version of your life. When you rise, old patterns pull at your ankles. Old fears try to whisper you back into the familiar. Old doubts resurface, insisting that you were safer living small. Growth stretches you. Rebirth shakes you. Elevation challenges you. But those challenges are transformations in disguise. When Musk spoke about resilience, she spoke from the experience of someone who rebuilt her life again and again, never waiting for someone to choose her, never hoping for someone to rescue her. She made decisions that others didn't understand. She trusted her instincts even when logic told her she was stepping into uncertainty. She didn't wait for perfect conditions because she knew they would never arrive. She simply chose herself and trusted that life would meet her halfway. You are capable of doing the same. You don't need certainty. You need courage. You don't need approval. You need clarity. You don't need a perfect past. You need intention. Your journey doesn't begin when everything aligns. It begins the moment you decide to align yourself with the life you want. And once you make that decision, life begins presenting you with opportunities disguised as challenges, lessons disguised as obstacles, and breakthroughs disguised as risks. Imagine the version of you who has already chosen themselves. The version who wakes up with purpose. The version who speaks with confidence. The version who no longer accepts half love, half effort, or half belief. The version who stops asking, "Am I enough?" and starts saying, "I am becoming more than I ever imagined." That version of you exists, not in some distant future, not in some perfect scenario, but in the choices you make today. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is bridged by 1,000 moments of choosing yourself. The more consistently you choose yourself, the faster that gap closes. And soon the life you once dreamed about becomes the life you're actually living, not because someone handed it to you, but because you built it with your own hands, your own courage, your own belief. And something else happens, something subtle but powerful. The world begins to respond to you in a new way. People who once overlooked you begin to notice. Doors you once thought were closed begin to open. Circumstances that once felt impossible begin to shift. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stepped into alignment with who you truly are. And alignment attracts what hesitation repels, but even as opportunities rise. You must keep choosing yourself. It's not a one-time act, it's a lifestyle, a mindset, a declaration of self-respect, because there will always be moments when the old version of you tries to return. Moments when you're tempted to go back to what's comfortable, what's familiar, what's predictable. But remember this: comfort is the enemy of possibility. Familiarity is the anchor that keeps you in shallow waters. Predictability is the cage that keeps you from flight. You were not born to live a small story. You were not created to inhabit a life that doesn't excite you. You were not designed to disappear into the background of your own existence. You came here to grow. You came here to evolve. You came here to rise. Choosing yourself is how you begin that rising. And even if you've made mistakes, even if you've failed before, even if you've been disappointed, even if you feel behind, none of that disqualifies you from choosing yourself today. In fact, your past has prepared you, strengthened you, shaped you, sharpened you. Everything you've survived has prepared you for everything you're about to claim. You are not late. You are not empty. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are blooming. You are beginning again. And beginnings don't ask for perfection. They ask for presence. They ask for willingness. They ask for just enough belief to take the next step. And if you take that next step, another will reveal itself. And another. And another. Until one day, you wake up and realize that the life you are living is not the life you settled for but the life you shaped with intention. Your transformation will not arrive all at once. It will arrive in moments, in decisions, in courage that grows louder each day. And one morning, you will look in the mirror and see someone you respect. Someone you fought for. Someone you chose, and that will be the moment you understand why this truth, this one truth Musk lived by and passed down, is the truth that can change your life forever. When you choose yourself, the world eventually learns to choose you too. And now, as you stand at this quiet crossroads within yourself, there is something you need to know, something that often goes unspoken, something that may be the most important truth of all. Choosing yourself is not about becoming someone new, it is about remembering who you were before the world taught you to doubt, because there was a time, long before fear, long before pressure, long before expectations, when you believed anything was possible. A time when you didn't apologize for dreaming, when you didn't shrink your imagination, when you didn't ask if you were allowed to be extraordinary. That version of you is still inside, waiting to be reclaimed. When you choose yourself, you are not adding something to your identity, you are removing everything that never belonged there in the first place. You are peeling away the layers of insecurity, comparison, and hesitation until your truest self finally breathes again. The world may have tried to convince you that you're ordinary. But you're not, your heart knows it, your soul knows it, and somewhere deep inside, you know it too. You have always carried a spark that refuses to die, no matter how many storms you've walked through. That spark is the proof of your resilience, the quiet evidence of your potential, the sign that you are meant to do more than simply endure life, you are meant to shape it. The truth Musk taught her children, the truth she lived through every reinvention, every challenge, every moment she rebuilt from scratch, is that the people who rise in this world are not the ones who had the easiest paths. They are the ones who kept choosing themselves even when everything around them tried to convince them not to. And now that truth belongs to you. You may not feel ready. You may not have the perfect plan. You may not know how everything will unfold. But you have something far more powerful than certainty. You have willingness. And willingness is the spark that ignites transformation. It is the force that turns fear into fuel, confusion into clarity, pressure into purpose. It is the inner whisper that says, even if I don't know how, I'm going to try. That whisper is where revolutions begin. That whisper is what shapes destinies. That whisper is the voice of your future calling you forward. The moment you answer that call, your life begins to shift, not overnight, but steadily, with every brave choice you make. Some days the progress will be loud. Some days it will be quiet. Some days you will take huge leaps. Some days you will take tiny steps. But every step counts. Every effort accumulates. Every moment of choosing yourself becomes part of a momentum that eventually becomes impossible to stop, and eventually, you will reach a moment that may happen quietly on an ordinary morning or suddenly in the middle of a breakthrough. When you look around and realize you are living a life that once felt out of reach. A life you built. A life that reflects your courage, your choices, your resilience, a life that proves choosing yourself was the best decision you ever made. And when that moment comes, you will feel something powerful rising in you. Pride, not the loud kind that boasts, but the deep kind that whispers, "I did it. I really did it." The kind of pride that honors every risk you took, every fear you faced, every sacrifice you made, every storm you survived. The kind of pride that settles in your bones and replaces every ounce of doubt that once held you back. You will understand then that you didn't just change your life, you reclaimed it. You didn't just chase a dream, you embodied it. You didn't just hope for better, you became better, and in that understanding, something beautiful will happen. You will inspire others, not by trying. Not by teaching, not by preaching, but simply by existing as someone who chose themselves and rose. Your transformation becomes an invitation for others to begin their own. You become living proof that it's never too late, never impossible, never out of reach, and that is how one person choosing themselves doesn't just change their life, it changes the world around them. So here you are, at the end of this message but at the beginning of something extraordinary. The truth that changed Musk's life, that shaped her children, that fuels dreamers and visionaries across generations, is now alive inside you. And it will guide you, if you let it. You don't need to rush. You don't need to pressure yourself. You don't need to have everything figured out today. You only need to do one thing: choose yourself, again and again, until it becomes the only way you know how to live. Every dream you carry becomes possible the moment you stop abandoning yourself. Every chapter you crave begins the moment you give yourself permission to start. And every version of you that you've ever imagined meeting one day is already waiting on the other side of this decision. So take a breath. Take your power back. Take the first step toward the life that's been waiting for you. You are stronger than you realize. You are more capable than you believe. You are more deserving than you've been taught to accept. And you are standing at the doorway of a future filled with everything you once thought was too far away. This is your time. This is your rise. This is your life to shape. Choose yourself, fully, fiercely, unapologetically, and watch how the world transforms in response. Because once you do, nothing will ever be the same again, and one day, you will look back at this moment with a full heart and say, "This is where everything changed. This is where I began, this is where I finally chose myself." And your life, from that moment forward, will never stop expanding.